everyone, and welcome to another episode of Classic Gamer 74. I'm your host, Anthony Gamer.
And I'm Mumford.
Today we're going to discuss games for girls. Now, in this episode, we're not going to discuss games that were made by women. We did that a while back, and we had some great games that were on there.
Yep.
Today we're going to be discussing games that have a female protagonist, which I think is something that the gaming industry needs to do more of.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, think about, there's girls that play games too. Just as many girls as guys.
Exactly. So I think this is an untapped market that gaming companies, hint hint, need to delve into a little bit more. And as the father of a young lady who is a gamer, you know, come on, get with it. Anyway, so let's get started. Are you ready?
Oh yeah, I'm ready when you are.
Okay, so let's look at some games for girls.
And our first game for today here is Ghost Manor. This was from 1982 by Zonix. Now this was the other half of the double-ender with Spike's Peak, although you could buy the game on its own, which is actually kind of rare and valuable.
Yep, it sure is. In this game, you take on the role of this girl who is trying to rescue her boyfriend from Dracula. You go through the cemetery, you involved in a shootout, and ultimately you try to rescue the love of your life from the Prince of Darkness. Strawberry Shortcake was a toy that was created for girls in the early 80s by Kenner. It became wildly successful and spawned TV specials, all kinds of interesting toys, some knockoffs, and they even had a video game that was made for the Atari 2600 called Strawberry Shortcake Musical Mix-Up. In this game, you are trying to get all the parts of each of the characters in the Strawberry Shortcake universe. You have Strawberry Shortcake, Blueberry Muffin, Huckleberry Pie, and of course the Purple Pie Man. When you get the characters correct, it will say their name at the bottom, but sometimes it's kind of fun just to mix them up and play some of the kooky music that you can create. And our next game is Dishaster. It's also known as Dancing Plates when it was released in Europe by Bit Corporation. This was actually inspired by the circus tradition of keeping spinning plates suspended on top of poles. You take on the role of this little girl and you're trying to keep those plates spinning for as long as you can without them crashing. As time goes on, they add more and more plates, and you got to just keep them spinning and keep the points going. A really fun game, and boy, it can get pretty stressful after a while, but overall, this is definitely a lost classic.
This next game here was released only in PAL format as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know actually, and it's called Lily's Adventure in some parts of the world, and it's also called Wilma Wanderer. The best way to describe this game is if Pitfall Harry were a woman. It's a pretty fun game, but honestly that music can be a little much, like a lot of PAL games. Sometimes it's best just to have fun playing this game by turning the sound off. And of course, how can we not mention games with female protagonists without going into the original heroine of the video game world herself? That is Miss Pac-Man from 1982 by Midway. What can you say? It's a legendary game with a legendary protagonist. You're munching the pellets. You're trying to avoid the ghosts, and it's just a game that has gone into legendary status. I would even say it's surpassed that of the original Pac-Man.
And next up, as we're in the arcade zone, let's talk about Kangaroo. This was a game released by Atari in 1982. In this game, you take on the role of a mother kangaroo whose baby has been kidnapped by these evil apple-throwing monkeys. So you decide to go rescue them. You can grab the strawberries for extra energy, ring the bell, and best of all, punch out those punk monkeys that took your baby. One reason this game has a special place in my heart is I remember as a child, my mom and dad took me to Celebration Station for my birthday, and my mom was standing right next to me when I got the high score in this game. So it's got a special place in my heart, and just shows that a mother's love conquers all.
Next, we go to the world of the NES and the platformer games as we look at Metroid. Now, Believe it or not, I didn't play this game much when it first came out. I didn't either. Well, I tried. I wasn't that good at it. Yeah, you and me both. In this game, you take on the role of Samus, who is, believe it or not, a female under that outfit. And throughout the series, she is fighting against the evil Mother Brain. This is considered one of the longest and most successful franchises from the Nintendo universe. And next up, we have Aliens, this really awesome shooter game from Konami. Was extremely popular in the arcade, based on the film franchise starring Sigourney Weaver, who, of course, played Ripley, the heroine and protagonist of the films. Strangely enough, as popular as this game was, and as well received as it was, I'm really surprised it wasn't ported out. Yeah, it never was it? I believe it was actually available for a short time on one of those online gaming stores. I don't remember which one, but I suspect licensing must have had something to do with it, because honestly, it's a travesty that this game was not ported out anywhere back in the day. Now we go to the world of PC gaming. Alone in the Dark was a survival horror game that was released in 1992 by Infogrames? Yeah. That's kind of a weird name. Why do they just call Info Games? I don't know. But anyway, but that's a tongue twister. Anyway, in this game, you take on the role of Emily Hartwood, and you are trapped inside a haunted mansion. Your object? Get out, basically. This is more of a puzzle game than an actual fighting game, as you can actually get further in the game and have a better chance of surviving if you solve puzzles as opposed to just trying to fight the enemies head on. It's a scary game with lots of jump scares and has definitely gone into legendary status. In recent years, there have been some reboots of the series and a movie, so if you haven't had a chance to check out this classic PC game from the 90s, I highly recommend it. Speaking of PC games, I'm happy I finally get to talk about these games, and these next three games were created by the amazing and talented Roberta Williams, and this first one is King's Quest IV, The Perils of Rosella. In this adventure game, you take on the role of Princess Rosella, and you are trying to save your father, King Graham, from a terrible curse. What set this game apart from other games of the time, including the other games of the series, was the first time that any sort of quest type game like this had a female protagonist. The game was well received, won several awards, and just shows the genius that was Roberta Williams. And we have two other games that she's created coming up right next. A few games later in the King's Quest franchise, you would have King's Quest VI, The Princeless Bride, in which you would take on the roles of both Princess Rosella and Queen Balanice. This would actually be the last game from the original Sierra Online to focus on the royal family themselves. The game itself is really cool. It's got stunning cartoon-like graphics, really fun gameplay. It can be hard too at times, but overall it's a really fun, funny, adventurous, tearjerker. It's got every aspect that you would expect from games in the King's Quest series. That's correct. And we are going to be having some episodes later on where I pay tribute to each individual King's Quest games and the games of Roberta Williams herself. So stay tuned for that. And next up, we have the Colonels Bequest, a Laura Bow mystery, as you take on this young college girl named Laura Bow, who is the daughter of an ace detective, and you've been invited to a weekend getaway with your friend at her uncle's estate. There's a reading of the will, and before you know it, members of the family start turning up dead and murdered. And your job is to find out who the killer is and stop them before you become the next victim. There were only two games in the Laura Bow series. I think that if Sierra had lasted and not gone out of business, there may have been more. This is definitely a game to check out if you're into mysteries or stuff like that. You're going to really enjoy this game. So definitely a lost classic worth checking out.
The North American version of Super Mario Bros. 2 was a tremendous success and actually was the cover of the very first issue of Nintendo Power Magazine. In this game, you have the choice of one of 4 characters, Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Princess Toadstool, later, of course, called Princess Peach. This, of course, is the Americanized version of a game made for the Famicom Disk System called Yomekujo Doki Doki Panic, as the original Super Mario Bros. Game was considered too hard for North American gamers. This was the first time that Princess Peach would actually get to be one of the protagonists, and she actually is probably one of the best characters to use, in my opinion. I've actually beat the game with her, so we'll go into more detail about this game in a later episode, but it does stand alone as the first time that Princess Peach got to be the protagonist as opposed to being the damsel in distress.
Y'all are familiar with the story of Donkey Kong. Mario's girlfriend, Pauline, is abducted by the ape who falls in love with her, and Mario has to go save her, yada, yada, yada. Well, one guy decided, let's change it around and let Mario be the one that gets abducted, and Pauline has to be the hero to go save him. So what you're looking at here is a hack of the arcade game Donkey Kong called the Pauline Edition, in which Pauline gets to be the superhero and save her boyfriend from that big dumb ape. This has gotten a lot of acclaim, and it's been downloaded by a lot of people, and pretty cool game. If you have MAME, chances are you probably have it in your files somewhere, so give it a try and let us know what you think.
Returning to the arcade, we have Ladybug. Now, this is a maze game similar to Pac-Man, but it's got a twist, lots of twists. You've got doors to open and close, some of the power-ups you don't want to eat. It's a really cool game, very fast-paced. Some amazing ports have been made for it. Probably the best has to be the 2600 homebrew made by John Champeau, in which he was inspired to make this because they didn't make a port for the 2600, even though Coleco had advertised it, so he decided to make his own and did an outstanding job of porting an outstanding game. If you haven't tried this game, I don't know where you've been, but give it a try. It's a lot of fun. And we're off to the world of Activision as we have Dolphin for the Atari 2600 by Activision, programmed by Matthew Hubbard. In this game, you take on the role of a dolphin, and you are using your ears to help you with this. You hear a signal, and you have to swim through a school of seahorses and get to the good currents. You have to get away from this angry, hungry squid that wants to eat you, and then you are able to fight against him sometimes. It's a really fun, action-packed game. One of those lost classics, I believe, for the Atari 2600, and one of Activision's least appreciated games. But a whole lot of fun, and it's pretty cool because that dolphin herself can be pretty tough when she gets that power up and goes after that evil squid. So if you haven't played this game, I highly recommend trying it.
Now, didn't you find this game by accident?
Yeah, I was actually just digging through the files on my C64 emulator, and I found this one. It's called Fiona Rides Out. Want to tell them about it?
Sure. In this game, you take on the role of Fiona, who's a witch, and her sister witches have stolen some of her stuff, and she has to get them back. So she flies through the air and tries to find different things and battles other like zombies and stuff to get them back. It's a pretty cool game, actually. Definitely one I think after we did research, it's other C64 people were pretty familiar with it. It came out in 1985 and was published by Viper Software, so we're a little late to the game on this one, but those of you that have a Commodore 64 and like to play some of those lesser known games, I'm sure you've heard of it, and if you haven't heard of it, I highly recommend trying it. Next up, we have another Commodore 64 game that's a little more well known than a lot of them, and this is the Great Guyana Sisters. This has been covered by a lot of other channels because of the fact that it's so ungodly similar to Mario Brothers. Yep, Super Mario, I'll tell you. It's pretty much, the best way to put it is if Mario and Luigi were girls. That's about it. It's really a fun game, though. If you like Super Mario Brothers, you're going to love this game. And if you were
if you are a woman and you wish that there had been a Super Mario Brothers with women instead, you got it right here. So check it out. And of course, we cannot end this episode without discussing the queen of video games herself, Lara Croft. She is the protagonist of the ongoing Tomb Raider series. What can be said about this that hasn't already been said? She's cute. She's badass. She doesn't take crap from zombies, anybody. Very intelligent young lady, archaeologist. Game has been enjoyed by gamers of many generations and still going as far as I know. There have been all kinds of stuff come from it, like movies, t-shirts, mugs. She's a meme, just everything. Lara Croft has become a symbol for female empowerment. Just what more can you say about her? So, did we miss any? Were there some other games with female protagonists that we forgot to mention? Let us know about it in the comments section below, as we'll be more than happy to do a follow-up.
In our next episode, we're going to be discussing forgotten video game sequels.
Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Classic Gamer 74. I really hope you all enjoyed it. I sure did. Well, I did too. And if you enjoyed it, let us know by hitting that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to click that little bell icon down there so you'll be notified when I upload new episodes. And don't forget to check out our Patreon page. We got some really cool stuff that you're not going to find anywhere else, including an episode about band games. Yep, we got that episode coming. It's going to be on there. We also have some music videos. We also have some behind the scenes, some bonus stuff, and we're going to have episodes exclusive for Patreon. So please check out our Patreon page, and it doesn't matter what level of support you give, you will have access to everything. So please visit our Patreon page and help us out. It's very much appreciated. Well, until next time, I'm Anthony Gamer, and I'm Mumford, and we will see you on the next episode. Until then, be strong, be safe, be happy, be healthy, and above all, take care of each other, be kind to each other, and stop hate of all kinds. See you soon. Bye. Goodbye, everyone.
Aside from the videos that Anthony mentioned, the band episodes, I will also have more dark and disturbing games